So former VBS Mutual Bank, Tshifhiwa Matodzi, was sentenced to an effective 15 years in jail after pleading guilty this week. This is for his coordinated looting of the bank. He was found guilty of 33 counts of corruption, theft, fraud, money laundering and racketeering. His guilty plea saw him enter a deal with the state, which resulted in him signing a now leaked 263-page witness statement in which several politicians, traditional leaders and the former DG at National Treasury are implicated. The statement also alleges that EFF leaders Julius Malema and Floyd Shivambu received kickbacks from VBS for the party to not use political muscle against the bank. But let's get reaction to these latest developments. And for that, we're now joined by VBS Minority Shareholders spokesperson, Mr. Madambi Muvhulawa. Mr. Muvhulawa, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to start with this. The news is revealed this week that Tshifhiwa Matodzi was sentenced to an effective 15 years in prison. What's the reaction from you?
We welcome the sentence. Because it's a sign that those who are investigating the cases are doing their job. And now the NPA has now acted accordingly. Though, you know, the period of serving, you know, to us it seems not that so harsh in comparison to the money that was lost by the people.
Mm. What would you have preferred that sentence to look like?
Well, though, you know, we don't have really anything in our mind of in as far as the period of the sentence. But, you know, 15 years, we felt it is not, it's not really relevant to the money implicated in these cases.
Do you believe that more people should be held accountable outside of just Mr. Matodzi?
Well, we expected that, you know, there are there are other people implicated. Mm. But, you know, to our surprise, is the list that Mr. Matodzi has of the people implicated. Some of them we never expected that. But we appreciate what Matodzi has done, because now the NPA know who to deal with, because it is making their job easier, because now they know who they should follow up.
Okay, I imagine that you've seen that 263-page witness statement, right? As you talk about the list that he's revealed, and you said some of them you simply weren't expecting to be there. Names that stood out for you that have been implicated by this witness statement.
Can I get your question properly?
Who is it? You said you were surprised by some of the names that have been that have come up out of Mr. Matodzi's witness statement. Who are the names that really stood out for you and surprised you?
Who haven't been named?
Who has been named in the list? Okay, so let's start with this. According to this witness statement, Mr. Muvhulawa, what we've heard as well from this witness statement is essentially it has implicated Julius Malema and Floyd Shivambu, saying that they had met with leadership of the bank, that meeting culminating in, 16.1 million rand being given to the economic freedom fighters. Some of those monies used allegedly to buy a restaurant in Soweto. So did you know about those transactions, and what did you make of that revelation?
We didn't know. You know, we thought the people implicated are only those mentioned by the Perimutau in Revelation. But now that, you know, Mr. Matodzi have added other names, we never expected some of them to be in the list.
Mm. What do you think do you believe that 16 million rand was allegedly given to the economic freedom fighters? So what is your position on that?
No, you see, we believe on what is investigated and proved. Mm. That's what we believe in. You know, all the time, you know, it was individuals were named. It was always, you know, a suspicion that maybe. But now that, what remains is now that it be proven in the court of law. So it's not a matter of us believing. No.
What do you make of the allegation, though, that these monies were given to the economic freedom fighters allegedly so that the EFF does not use its political muscle against the bank leadership? What do you make of that?
No, well, as you say, those are allegations. Once they now been proved in the court of law, then we accept it. So we take it as allegations as well. But we wait until, it will be proven that by the court of law that what was alleged is true.
Well, talk to us about the minority shareholders and their plight at the moment, right? What is it that the minority shareholders really are asking themselves as they watch all of this play out?
What about the minority shareholders? The
minority shareholders, to talk to us about those who invested in the bank, their confidence that their monies will be returned to them?
Yeah, with the shareholders, the allegations made to people who have been involved, and now that the LPA is doing its job, and we have found that Matodzis has now admitted guilty, that doesn't bring anything to the shareholders who have lost money. That's fine. It's a punishment to the act of crime. But what the shareholders want is somebody who can come up with a plan to say, how are they going to get their money back? That was what is most important to us.
Can you give me a figure that, as the minority shareholders, you're looking at getting back?
No, it's the total amount that shareholders invest, the total amount that was mentioned. Because, the total amount of the bank, which was measured as 2.7 billion, that belongs to the shareholders. That is the amount. Yes.
I want to hear a little bit more about the shareholders, right, and who it is exactly that we're talking about. I mean, are we essentially speaking about groups of people here that are necessarily vulnerable? What do we know about the grouping that is the minority shareholders group?
We are talking about the grouping. That's why we have formed the group called VBS Minority Shareholders Forum, where we speak with one voice. So that is the group.
And are they elderly?
They are elderly people. In VBS, most of the people who invested in VBS were elderly people and who have used their last money, hoping that, it will take care of them until, they leave this country. But now, that money is gone. So they don't have any more strength to accumulate that wealth. Those are the type of shareholders that we are speaking of.
When last was there communication with these elderly minority shareholders of VBS Bank, either it be from bank leadership or even law enforcement authorities? So what is the interaction and information updates that you are receiving as a grouping that is the minority shareholders that have grouped and organized yourselves together?
We are always in contact. The group, they have elected an executive committee which always communicate with those authority concerned, like the liquidator, even the investigators, and some of the authorities to find out what is happening. So whatever they find out, they report back to the majority of shareholders.
The complexity of this issue with VBS is that there is this involvement of political leaders. Once again, Floyd Shivambu mentioned, Julius Malema mentioned. What would you like to hear from them, Mr. Muvhulawa?
No, they are like any other person implicated. So we expect that at the end of the day, they must also appear in the court of law and fall suit and follow what Matodzis has done and not waste time by arguing and just admit so that then the court can finalize the case against them. And then we remain with the problem of how is our money going to come back.
Moving forward, what's the next step for the minority shareholders group? So the action that you continue to take is you want to get the monies of the elderly that invested in the bank back. I mean, you mentioned 2.7 billion rand that you believe is owed to elderly vulnerable people that invested in the bank. What's the next step for you?
No, the next step is we are continuing trying to communicate with the Reserve Bank and the liquidator to make means that whatever is collected must be distributed amongst the shareholders who have lost money.
And what progress are you making then with the Reserve Bank, for instance?
No, there's actually no progress. That's our worry. The communication is very poor. Because we expected that, they would give us regular reports as to what has been collected, what is left and from who, and we don't get that information.
And the information from the liquidators?
Well, the liquidator is appointed by the Reserve Bank. In actual fact, the liquidator report to the Reserve Bank. That's why he's reluctant in giving us information, because he is responsible to the Reserve Bank. So Reserve Bank, that should be the one that gives us the information.
Yeah. Just before I let you go, Mr. Muvhulawa, and I know that we've been talking for a while, but I really want to talk a little bit more around some of the elderly shareholders that you talk about here. You make mention of how a lot of them would have invested the last of some of their savings into the bank. So has there been aid or assistance? And in that I mean, how has the livelihood of some of these elders been impacted? Perhaps you can tell me a story about one or two of the shareholders that you interact with, and if, they have a daily struggle as a result of what is unfolded at VBS.
Some of these shareholders have died not because of natural death, because of, the pressure that they had in their life, thinking of the money that they will never recover. So they died before their time. Some of the shareholders have died already. And some of those, you find them now sitting alongside the street now, selling fat cakes just to make ends meet, because they can't be employed, they are old, and they're struggling. Those are the type of shareholders. That's what is happening with the shareholders.
That is quite a picture that you have painted for us,
and nobody is coming to their rescue. Nobody.
Mr. Muvhulawa, we will be, of course, following up on this, and we really do appreciate you speaking to us. And we'll be looking at all the angles of really how this has impacted the minority shareholders, represented, of course, by Mr. Madambi Muvhulawa, who's speaking to us there, VBS Minority Shareholder spokesperson.